Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report. The commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to your feature presentation. I'm your host, Heath Fall. Today we're talking about D23 movies coming out, TV shows, and of course movies coming out this weekend. Today, joining me is not who you expect. Just kidding, it is Andrew McKay.
Surprise. The ever-consistent. Ever reliable.
Yes, he's back again. Look who's back.
Guess who's back?
Guess who's back?
Andy's back.
Andy's back.
That's all I know.
Did you say Andy's back or and he's back?
Oh, I said Andy. Yeah.
That makes sense because Andrew. They're both called Andy.
I'll run you through the details of how nicknames work.
How do nicknames work? I just found out for the first time in my life that no one is named Nathan. Like,
oh, Nathaniel. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought there were Nathaniels and Nathans.
Because Nathan is a long enough name.
Right. And they can both go by Nate. You know?
Yeah. So,
like, I thought I had Nathaniel friends and Nathan friends. And it turns out they're all Nathaniels.
Wow. I think there's actually a bit. Who's that? It's like the Tennessee Kid. He's a comedian, and he has a bit about he signed up for a flight under Nathan, but his driver's license says Nathaniel, and they were like, "You can't come on the plane," and he was like, "Are you kidding me?"
That's right. He's like, but you can see how like it is the same name. Like,
yeah, it's an adjacent step.
From, you know.
Yeah.
Nope. Sorry. Well, cool. Let's start off with movies coming out this weekend. We got a couple wide releases. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with Reagan.
Let's do it.
So this is starring Dennis Quaid, all reliable, and drama based on the life of Ronald Reagan from his childhood onto his time in the Oval Office. It's a biography, history, drama. Honestly, I would have not thought of Dennis Quaid to play Ronald Reagan, but it's a great choice.
Yeah.
As you see it, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
It's funny because you think, when you see Dennis Quaid, you think of Dennis Quaid, but then you see him like in the promotional photos. Yeah. But when you see him in the promotional photos for Reagan, like with a cowboy hat on, he's like, yeah, that kind of looks like Ronald Reagan. My favorite story about Dennis Quaid, besides that he looks like Dennis Quaid, is that he apparently was really doing a lot of coke on the set of Jaws 3. And if you watch it with that in mind, it makes it a really funny experience because he's so like, blah.
That's
like,
intense.
Dude probably just had some coke right before he yelled at a shark, you know? So,
wow.
Yeah.
Right before you yell at a shark. They're like, there's no shark on set. We've never really had any practical effects for this whole movie. Yeah. Dennis Quaid is just on a lot of coke. And
there's something in the water. There's something in the water.
Speaking of Alien, there's something in the water.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really want to talk about Alien so bad. But next week, we are doing a ranking order of the Alien movies. So we're going to talk about Romulus. Yeah. We actually haven't even talked about Romulus yet. The two of us have not conversed.
We're still zip.
Yeah, Andrew's got a audio-only episode on Spotify and Apple. But we'll talk next week all about aliens.
Which reminds me, when we get to that Alien episode, tune in. If you listened to the audio-only episode that I did, I'm fixing some errors. I spoke too freely, and I think there were some things that I was like, oh, this happened in Prometheus and this happened in Covenant, and I was wrong. And so I'll mention those as well. If you picked out I know. If you picked out a couple things, you're like, I don't think that's accurate. I recognize that, and I'm going to talk about that.
Hey, to be fair, we talked about you doing that episode. We couldn't do it together, so we're like, why don't you just give us a one-off? And you did that at 7 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Popped out of bed, did a reaction to Alien Romulus. So
yeah,
I
it
think
was
it's a bit
great.
of a
My
pass.
son was not awake yet, and I was like, I've just got to do it now. It's now or never.
So you've got that dad voice going on. But we're getting derailed here.
That's
So let's talk about the next movie. What do you want to do next?
Yeah, we have up next is Afraid.
Yeah.
This is a sci-fi thriller mystery. The Curtis family is selected to test a new home device, a digital assistant called AIA. It learns the family's behaviors and begins to anticipate their needs, and she can make sure that nothing and no one gets in her family's way. She kind of syncs up to all the cameras and security systems and sensors in the whole house. It feels like if you're like a 90s, early 2000s kid who watched Disney Channel original movies, it feels like... You're going to say it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
1, 2, 3.
Smart House. Did you said it really slowly.
I was waiting for
you. You see me not doing it. It feels like Smart House if it was actually like a scary thriller movie. So that's exciting.
That's cool.
I think it's a fun take, good option. So
it's like a home
some
invasion,
faces you might...
but the house is
the house, yes. You are invading on your home. Whoa. So
Smart House also. A delightful movie.
Also Smart House.
I've noticed they've started putting those Disney Channel original movies on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And, the ones that would come out every month, like The Luck of the Irish or Brink, all these straight to TV movies.
Time Stoppers.
Time Stoppers. It's just all these crazy odd movies. Xena, was it Xenon? Xenon? Girl of the 21st Century.
Cetus Lapidus.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Go,
it
boom,
was
boom. My supernova girl. We'll have to talk about all those movies.
That'd be great.
They're weird, right? They're so odd.
So weird.
In the Smart House, I just saw a meme that's going to come back because people are watching these movies again, and it was a bit about they do a whole these three guys the kids in the movie or whatever do this whole dance routine to a music video. They're like, oh, check this. They're trying to be oh, check out this new band or this song. And they all have a choreographed dance. And it's yeah, because when you were a boy of 12 and your three friends got together, you all would memorize choreographed dance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we know this one. Here we got one.
Just really getting after it. Jeez. So anyway, I hope that Afraid is equally as weird.
Yeah.
And frightening.
It might be as good as Smart House. We'll have to see.
Oh, that would be awesome. Wow.
And hey, you know what?
Yeah?
We need to trust that it's going to be a quality film. You got to believe,
What a segue. Also coming out August 30th. You got to believe. This movie is about a Little League baseball team of misfits dedicated to their season to play for a dying father. Tears. In doing so, they accomplished the impossible by reaching the World Series Finals in a game that became an ESPN instant classic. Heart-wrencher, drama, family baseball movie, starring... what's his name? Luke Wilson. You know Luke Wilson?
Yeah, from Idiocracy.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, sweet.
Yeah.
What would you go see if you had a choice?
Probably Afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yep. I'm still riding that multiple year horror kick.
Yeah. We really need to do a year of horror, which one's better, because there's been so many horror movies.
That'd be good. That'd be a fun one.
All right, sweet. Let's jump right into our
D23.
D23 announcements. So D23 is I think it's every other year Disney convention, and it's announcements of what's coming out, what they're working on, and it's a cool thing. So it's every other year, but then this also includes like Star Wars, like Lucasfilm stuff, Marvel stuff. So it's like quite a bit of just like new and upcoming stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got your list there. I thought we could just kind of go through what we're excited about.
So there's lots and lots of things announced, hinted at, talked about, reaffirmed. There's things that are rumors from D23, and there are things that are straight up like, here's a trailer for this thing. So if we don't mention something that stuck out to you as a listener, I apologize. These are the things that stuck out to me. So fun things to mention. I don't have a lot to say about these things, and maybe you do, Heath, and you can interject when I say them. But there were 4 things that I was like, oh, that's really neat. First one is Avatar Fire and Ash.
Yeah.
At this point with Avatar series, I'm like, that's neat. I will go see it. Just kind of neat. Another one was Win or Lose. Did you see Win or Lose?
No.
It's a limited Pixar series. So Pixar, this I believe is Pixar's first series that they're doing. Love the animation style. If you haven't seen anything about it, look it up. Super fun, very comic booky, like Spot. I almost said Scott Pilgrim. So that one looked really exciting, piqued my interest. Another one that just looked really fun was Elio, like a Pixar space adventure. That one, I mean, I love space stuff, and most Pixar movies are kind of wins for me. So that was interesting. And then Incredibles 3. I would talk more about Incredibles 3, but I don't really know anything about it. So at this point, it's just an interest peak.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting. I'd love to kind of touch on those too, but I'm just going to go through a few of mine as well.
Right.
So we have a cohesive list, then we can kind of go back. Also, they announced Moana 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did a trailer for that. They announced Toy Story 5, so it's going to be written and directed by Andrew Stanton. They announced, let me see here, the Pixar Zootopia 2. And the only, to me, I was just like, I enjoyed the first one. It doesn't really obviously get me. That's not my type of movie, but Ken Hu Kwan is in it, and that made me happy.
Oh,
Anytime he's in it, I'm just like, that's cool. On Frozen 3, they're making a Frozen 3.
Yeah.
And so for Star Wars stuff, we've got Skeleton Crew, which we're going to dive into that one a bit. Andor Season 2 was announced.
Yep.
That it's, I think it's actually, the first look. So like it's being actively done. They did show The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
They showed a trailer that's not available online, but apparently, so that's, full on. Ironheart, Marvel show, Daredevil, Born Again, Agatha All Along. I can't wait to jump in to that one. Freaky Friday 2. Did you see that with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan? Stitch, a live action Stitch.
Did you say Lindsay Lohan?
Isn't it Lohan?
Lindsay Lohan?
I always said Lohan.
That's so embarrassing, Heath. Sorry, continue.
Snow White, which that is crazy to me. Like all the press going on with that. Tron, Ares is coming out. That'll be sweet. And then Mufasa. I think that Mufasa is interesting because that's a live action movie, and we're getting that in December, so that'll be kind of like a bigger like Christmas time movie. What stands out to you the most? What do you want to kind of break down in this group?
So I have the 3 sections, so don't really have a lot to talk about the 4 that I listed earlier, but the first exciting talking points that that I would like to talk about or say something about would be Skeleton Crew, Andor, and Mando. So we can kind of sit in Star Wars for a second.
Yeah, let's chill in Star Wars land.
So as Skeleton Crew
watched it together.
We did. We walked it.
We walked it here. We lived it.
We lived it. Yeah, Skeleton Crew was one that previously was in the leave it, take it or leave it kind of category. Riding the coattails of Acolyte being canceled made me less excited for the Skeleton Crew. Like, gosh, okay, because this is the worst part of the Star Wars fandom, is that people will just throw relentless tantrums and ruin stuff. Like, that story will never get to come to fruition because people are grumpy and crazy. So it made me not excited for a potentially interesting and friendly story. Like, a story can be really, really great without murder and gore and whatever. In the same vein, a story can be really bad even though it contains all of these like adult things that people seem to be obsessed with. And that's coming from a horror fan. Like, I'm a horror fan, and I understand that. So Skeleton Crew, I am more excited about it now, post D23, even though the Acolyte cancellation kind of took me out of it, because this is ultimately the sole reason. I heard someone say it's like the Goonies meets Star Wars. And I was like, you sold me. I'm in.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the vibe they're going for. The trailer does feel very Goonies. It's funny, the Losers Club. It, you know, which is funny because I always described it as horror Goonies, but just like that E.T., you know, that group of kids like going on in
Stranger Things,
yeah. And man, if anybody hasn't watched, if you're a fan of Stranger Things and you haven't watched E.T. or haven't watched it in a while, revisit it, because like in a really cool way, you can see how they took so much of the vibe from E.T.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Kids on bikes, playing D&D to start off with, you know, and just like it's really cool, like in just a celebration way, I think. Skeleton Crew, I feel like is kind of a mixed bag for me, because this is such a love for me of TV shows and movies like this style. Goonies, I love the 80s. It feels like a weird Star Wars project. Like it doesn't feel like Star Wars, which is not bad. But on Rebel Force Radio, they talked about it almost feels like these are kids from our world, like that get sent through time into the Star Wars world.
Yeah,
like, it feels
like they're playing their own Star Wars like imaginary game together.
Yeah, which I'm like, I don't know. It feels like I'm just gonna have to kind of get used to that, you know. And when I watch a Star Wars show, I want it to feel like Star Wars. And the Acolyte, for all the negative things that I have. Which I will say this about the Acolyte. Yeah, I did hear that as well, that it seems like this has been canceled. But the nice thing about Star Wars is it always has life in other mediums. So, like, we will get the resolution of that story. I believe that. It might be a while. But you'll still get a book, or, you know, like, there's certain things like, if it gets canceled, you'll never know, and you'll never hear it.
Right.
But, like,
I'm concerned that the cancellation will lead to, when they finally get around to telling the end of that story, I won't care anymore. It'll be 4 or 5 years down the road. I'm like, sorry, the time has passed. But anyway.
So yeah, Skeleton Crew looks cool. I'm excited. We'll just see kind of how the feel is, but to me, it seems promising. Who's the director of this? The showrunner?
Oh, that's a good question.
I can't remember. Maybe could you look that up? He's I remember he has a pedigree of some good shows and things he's attached to, and that's just always cool to me too, that there's like,
it's actually John Watts. That's amazing.
So like he's got a lot of stuff that has been successful, and it's just like someone that's like, I'm trying not to say negative things about the Acolyte, Andrew, because I know you love it. It was like someone who, like, I can't think of any positive spin to put this on the Acolyte, but someone who knows what they're doing.
Yes. Okay. All right.
So I don't know. That gets me excited. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but to me, that's a lot more showing of that.
Yeah.
So let's. Oh yeah, we're going to move on, or
move on, and I will say that for me, maybe this is different for you. What a installment in the Star Wars world needs to feel like Star Wars for me is set design, sound design. That's literally it. If it looks like Star Wars, if it sounds like Star Wars, I'm in. Anything can happen in the story. That's where I got really dissociated with the Acolyte crowd, is they were like the anger mob. They were like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars because these things are happening. I like, dude, it's an entire, there are multiple solar systems. You don't think there's room for XYZ to take place? So Skeleton Crew, like, there's a suburb. Like, these kids live in a suburb.
Yeah.
Of course there are suburbs somewhere in the solar system. I need to, in order to put me into the story, I need to hear Star Wars sounds, and it needs to look like a Star Wars adjacent, like the world is new, obviously, I hope, but it needs to be adjacent to it, you know? And that's literally all I require.
Now we're talking about the Acolyte again. For all the negatives I have about the Acolyte, I would say it did feel like Star Wars to me as well. Like, the biggest time that I was taken out of a Star Wars project because it didn't feel like Star Wars to me was the end of The Last Jedi with Broom Boy. Like, it just felt so real world and so much like what I would have done as a kid. And that's why they did it. But I'm like, but that's not Star Wars. No, you watch Star Wars because it's a fun space adventure. And then you, with your friends, you go play Star Wars in the backyard. I don't want to see kids play Star Wars. And I think that's my trepidation with Skeleton Crew.
Sure. Yeah. It should be interesting.
But it's like, I think it's going to be a good show. So we'll just see. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah. So Andor Season 2, moving on to the next Star Wars.
Yeah.
Andor is my favorite Star Wars anything.
Wow.
Like, talk about being Star Wars in sound design and set design. Andor did it perfectly. And the reason that it sails high above any other Star Wars project for me is the story that it told. So it looked like Star Wars. It sounded like Star Wars. Bought into being it being Star Wars. And then they told the best story that Star Wars has ever told. Especially in unison with Rogue One, like knowing all that information is coming. It was just unbelievable for me. So I have been waiting for Andor Season 2, like sitting on pins and needles, just waiting since the last episode of Season 1. I've watched it 3 times, I think. It's just amazing. What are your thoughts?
Love Andor. So excited for Season 2. I think it's some of the best. I would say it might be the best quality Star Wars. I mean, it's hard to judge anything outside of the original trilogy, but I would say outside of the original trilogy, I don't even want to have that fight, but outside of the original trilogy, I think it's some of the highest quality Star Wars.
I will say that there's been no other Star Wars as emotional as, like, throughout the whole project, as the original trilogy, other than Andor.
Well, you were asking me, though. You were asking me what it cost. And I said, everything.
Everything.
It's so good, man.
So good. So good.
And I think it's going to be really satisfying to watch Season 1 and Season 2 and then into Rogue One. I'm excited because I believe Alan Tudyk is returning to play K2. Such a fun character. And I'm really hoping he's in Season 2. I was super bummed he wasn't in Season 1. And seeing that, I was like, oh, of course that's why he wasn't in Season 1, you know? It didn't need him. The story wasn't there for him. It's like, thank you for not putting in a character that people love.
Unnecessarily?
Yeah. It's like, man, it's just quality.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about The Mandalorian and Grogu besides I'm excited about it. Like, I've loved...
Yeah, I hope...
Here, no, I'll talk. No, I'm gonna say this just a real quick thing, and then you can go. I loved Season 1 and 2 of Mando. 3 was pretty shaky, but all of my complaints about Marvel and Star Wars TV shows, if they're shorter, I think they would have been great. So like putting it into a movie where it's going to be
Interesting.
a timeline of like, it's like, I think season 3 of Mando and most other Star Wars projects and Marvel shows would have been better if it was just like a 2-hour movie. Like they don't have enough content to build this for so long. So to me, I hear Mandalorian and Grogu movie. That sounds really fun to me.
That's a really interesting take, yeah, because like we just talked about, was it last week? House of the Dragon wanting it to be more.
Yeah.
Like give me more episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right. I think of the Book of Boba Fett. I think of season 3 of Mando. I think of Obi-Wan. Like the Kenobi show. And I'm like, ooh, you really dilly-dallied.
Yeah.
And it feels wasted. And it could have been like a bigger punch, and you could have driven it home faster with a movie. So I'm excited to see like the Mandalorian arc and all those characters in a theater. But I am hesitant because I was really let down from season 3. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 moments that I enjoyed of the whole season, which is like saying a lot because I'm pretty pleased. Like I'm very easy to please. I liked The Acolyte, for crying out loud.
Yeah, season 3.
So-
I need to rewatch it because I was saying I was
It's a good idea.
dissatisfied. Oh, isn't season 3 the one we had with the whole one on Coruscant with the brainwashed guy?
Yeah,
that one was
and
like why are we watching that?
Yeah, and even that, I was like, okay, I hope that they go somewhere with that.
Nope.
And then you don't go back. I was like, oh, just context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyway, that's I think the only Star Wars stuff that I had written down.
Yeah. There is some stuff that I am Marvel wise. We talked about it before, but like Ironheart, that's the character from Wakanda Forever. Agatha, you brought up if it's 5 years later, I don't care. And like,
Dude, yeah.
I loved WandaVision. I loved Agatha in WandaVision, but it's like I don't care, and I don't want another WandaVision either. I thought it was such a special type of show, and it was really fun. But I'm like, we've all moved on.
That was a good experiment, and it's over.
Yeah, and I would say this too. I've been so let down by all the Marvel TV shows. I don't think there's one that I'm like rewatched. Most of them I didn't even finish. There's one that does stand out to me, and that's Daredevil, Born Again.
Yep.
Because I love the Netflix show, and I want more of those characters. All the original actors are returning. The Punisher, John Bernthal, Punisher is coming back. All the side characters. Who's the guy who plays Kingpin? He's from Full Metal Jacket.
I heard that
Vincent
he almost
D'Onofrio.
didn't come back. Yes,
But he's
you're right.
in Hawkeye too, so he's already come back.
Yeah.
Marvel. So I'm nervous about that one because again, this is now Disney kind of fully control. It's not the same team that did everything behind the scenes, but the characters are all the same, and I love Daredevil as a character, and so like that one, I want that one to be good, but I'm nervous about that just because of all of the other Marvel shows. Yeah, what do you think about the Marvel shows? Are you excited about any of those? Or?
Yeah. No, because I've been burned. No, just they've not like proven anything to me that they're like capable of really great stuff with the shows. Loki season 1 was like cool. WandaVision was cool. I think that was maybe my favorite, but then towards the end, I was like, oh, maybe I don't like this. So like it started off really experimental and cool.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hey, let's do this thing that hasn't been working out. And you're like, oh, okay.
Concepts are hard
So-
when you can only string
Yeah,
them along
but
for
like-
so long.
Yeah, but if you're going to try like a new experimental thing, like ride it out, stick with it. Like make the whole show, obviously don't make the whole show a sitcom TV show because that was a plot point that was telling a story about Wanda.
Yeah.
But make it continually weird. Like she's going through a traumatic experience, you know? So anyway, Yeah, if it was 5 years ago, like right on the tail end of WandaVision, 4 years ago, I would probably watch Agatha and be like, oh, okay. If it was like, 3-month break, and then we get Agatha, it's like, okay, I'll watch that. I remember her. But Agatha, Ironheart, those are examples of projects that I'm like, ooh, you missed your window. Yeah. I don't care anymore.
And
which is crazy because Daredevil, the window for Daredevil is bigger.
Yes.
And I do care.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's tough because I think we all enjoyed Agatha from WandaVision, those of us that saw it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just like, that's been so long, and it wasn't that good. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, best character ever, give me a show. But then the same thing like with Ironheart, I didn't really like her character in Wakanda Forever. So I just like, that was kind of like a, why are we doing this, show? I'm going to try with Daredevil. I love Daredevil. You're right. That's so interesting when the show is so beloved, even personally, for me, like it's been years and years, and I'm like, I can't wait. I want to watch it. And that's interesting. Yeah, you get more time out of things that are just that good,
Yeah. And I think that there's an obvious, like, glaring thing. So people, I think, are rightfully wary of, like, comic fans or Marvel fans or Star Wars, especially Star Wars fans, disliking a project with a female lead because they think that there's ingrained or subconscious sexism in the fan base, and that like the fan base just can't handle a TV show that's led by a woman. And to that sentiment, I would say that if there is inherent sexism, I think that it's like in part the studio for not giving the resources to the show to be actually good. Because for some reason, like, I feel like Agatha's not going to be good. And it's not because Agatha is a female witch or that the lead.
It's because you're sexist.
Oh, that's what I was trying to get around. You
hate women.
No, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like this Marvel doesn't trust the show enough that the concept could be good and that we all could like a strong, compelling story led by a female. And so they're just like, just do it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, that's the story we've been waiting for. So, like, the Black Widow movie, I enjoyed that one. There's some CGI stuff that was like, oh, that's not very cool, or doesn't look very good, but I enjoyed it. That was, like, a pretty good story to tell, Yeah.
I don't think it's tough because it's like sexism does exist, unfortunately. But I think for most people, it's give us a good story and it kind of wins things over.
Mm-hmm.
There is people that are just going to throw hate on it. I think, unfortunately, different female characters, especially like, minority, females have gotten a lot of hate in the Star Wars community, which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
But no one complains about Rogue One, and that is a female-led story.
Yeah.
And, I think if it's a quality story, it rises to the surface. It really kind of turns that around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
just choked in the end.
You're getting choked up.
I
know. He's getting really emotional. He's a girl dad. He can't help it.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
My little girl.
Yeah.
Oh, man. When people always ask me, because I talk about Lord of the Rings a lot. I like about the Rings of Power, and I'm like, I am a terrible judge on the quality of the Rings of Power because I loved it so much, but it was in a time in my life where like my daughter was just born, and like that was like my 1 hour by myself a week that I would just like go downstairs in the basement and watch the Rings of Power. And I remember the song that the Hobbit folk sang.
Yep.
Like, she has this line, and it's like, my legs are so short and the road is so long, and I'm like, Lucy has little legs, and I like would get like emotional about it. I'm like, I probably just need sleep, but
that's so sweet. I never heard that story before.
Oh yeah, it happens. Me just by myself crying at the Rings of Power because I'm running off of 2 hours of sleep and holding my little baby girl. So speaking of baby girl, she loves Moana, and I'm gonna try to take her. So she's 2; she'll be like 2.5. I'm gonna try to take her to Moana 2 for her first movie theater experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so it's like one of those things. I'm gonna go to a Saturday matinee. So if she can't handle it, or she's like if we get 20 minutes in and we leave, that's cool,
right? Whatever you want.
But yeah, going like a Saturday matinee, so there'll be other kids there and stuff. But I'm excited for that.
So speaking of kids movies, the live action Lilo and Stitch. Are you kidding me? I'm so pumped.
Yeah. I did not realize that Lilo and Stitch had such a fan base.
What?
Obviously, well, I just didn't know.
It's so good.
But me. Actually, we went here together. It was the same day when we went to Disney Springs. And a bunch of Lego sets came out because we're Lego fans.
Yeah.
They had a buildable Lilo and Stitch that came out this year, or sorry, just Stitch.
Yeah.
And it sold out.
Yeah, it was like one of the first ones to go.
Yeah, they were like, I was like, there's a midi scale Millennium Falcon, and Stitch went first. It's like,
yeah.
I remember, talked to the Lego guy, and he was just like, oh yeah, there's a huge Stitch following. It's like, who knew?
Yeah.
So, Stitch fans, if you're out there, let us know.
Yeah. Drop a comment for good old Experiment 626.
Yeah, 626. But yeah, so are you excited about that then? It sounds like
I'm so excited.
Enjoy those movies.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch was a big comfort movie for me as a child. Like it literally introduced me to like Elvis Presley, and like music from the 60s and part of the 70s. I was like, wait a second. That sounds really fun and cool. So it was, it was just really, really cool. We had it on VHS, and I just remember the sound of like, it was like one of those big puffy VHS ones, not like it's a sleeve, like that,
satisfying.
Yeah,
so
those. I love that one.
Do you know about the Switch in Stitch?
Because of 9/11?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen, like the mock-up drawings of the original scene, and I was like, ooh, yeah, good thing they changed that one.
Yeah, so the ending sequence was supposed to take place in a stolen, like, airline plane, and they switched it to a spaceship, and it was also supposed to, like hit buildings.
Yeah, it was supposed to swerve through downtown, like Honolulu or something.
And it's like, unfortunately, it was so close to 9/11 that it would have been like so weird, just like seeing planes go by buildings, like everyone would have been freaked out. But
yeah, it was it was only 9 months after 9/11 it's released. It wasn't even a year or so, which means the turnaround for that, like they were like finishing the project and they were like, we got to do something about this.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we should probably change that. Good thing they caught it. I feel like sometimes when you're staring at something for so long, you almost don't see it from a different perspective, because like you've been, they've had animators working on these buildings and planes, and so it's like, then you have to like, oh wait, step back, like, but yeah, well, that'll be fun though.
Yeah,
people are excited about it.
I'm pumped.
It's a fun movie.
Any other D23 things for you, Heath?
Well, I was going to say I am very excited for Frozen 3 because even more than Moana, Lucy loves Frozen. That's all she wants. Is she doesn't say Frozen, she asks for Anna and Elsa and Olaf.
Oh, she includes Olaf. So, that's nice.
She loves Olaf. I'm gonna try to get her on the pod. Maybe I'll do a Moana or like her take on Frozen. It'd be so cute.
Do it. That'd be amazing. That'll get the most views we've ever had.
Right. But no, so I'm excited just for that there'll be more content for me to show her, because I'm like, we've watched, I think every Saturday morning I try to watch like a bit of a movie with her, and like that's always the one. I'm like, I think we've watched like 45 minutes of Frozen every Saturday
for 2 years.
For 2 years. Yeah, so that's kind of all. Oh, actually, so let's talk about Tron Ares.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges is returning. I love Tron Legacy. I love the original Tron. Do you like these movies?
So I saw the announcement I saw that who's doing the music, Five Finger Death Punch or something. 9 Inch Nails. I don't know.
Nine Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails. They're the same. Whatever. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then I thought back to the one Tron movie that I have seen, which is the first reboot,
Legacy.
And I was like, you know what? That was really fun. So I saw the announcement and I was like, I should rewatch Tron, and like I should watch the originals as well. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So maybe I have a new movie love blossoming.
It's good. I mean, it's right up your alley. It's all that sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Tron Legacy is so fun. The soundtrack is so great.
Yeah.
With Daft Punk, and just the visuals are so good. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see that for sure. And then Avatar, what is it? Fire and Ash.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's like some of those names. I'm like, that's such like a cookie cutter, like $1 billion project, Fire and Ash. I'm like, okay.
Oh.
I'm excited though. So I loved both of them so far. I think my big argument would be that they're too long. I feel like, especially 3, I'm like, I really enjoyed it. I love the visuals. To me, I love a straightforward story. And to me, it feels very alien-like, you know, very like sci-fi, but it's kind of more it's sci-fi adventure.
So like Aliens.
Yeah, definitely. Which is
both James Cameron.
Right. Which is kind of funny. Like Ridley Scott and then James Cameron both made these monumental alien films, and then both went away from the project entirely, obviously, until Ridley Scott came back. But we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, so I'm excited for Avatar 3. I think the other one was good, and it should be good. Toy Story 5, it does kind of feel like, are we just kind of...
I didn't even watch or look at that announcement. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. I saw it like listed and I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I felt like Toy Story 3 was a push. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
And 2 movies later, we're still cooking.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up here with, I do want to say a few things about the craziness going on with the Snow White movie.
Yeah, please. I don't know any about this.
So it's been this whole kerfuffle. Let's call it a kerfuffle, okay?
Okay.
Because this is a PG podcast. We'll call it a kerfuffle. This is a movie kerfuffle, if you will. So basically, the quick version of the drama has come from Peter Dinklage. Made some comments about he doesn't want people to like... I don't even exactly what it was, but basically he was upset with the representation of the dwarfs, how they showed dwarfs and the word usage, and also so there was a lot of stuff like that. So what came from this is they changed it so it wasn't, magic, dwarfs. They were magical beings, they called them, and so they were like all these different types of fantastical creatures. And you can see set photos of all these people, and it's weird. Yeah, I apologize also if I'm not using correct language. I'm trying to use the correct thing, but one of them was a little person.
Yeah,
and so now they've backpedaled and they've gone back to fantastical, like magical dwarfs, and they're all completely CG. So it's just like this whole thing. So that was where it started off. Like they've changed the direction and then re-edited and changed several things in the movie. But then also Rachel Zegler came out and basically trashed the original movie and calling it sexist.
I remember that.
Yeah, and she called it like it was of its time and blah, blah, blah. And then she backpedaled. And was like in another interview, she was like, this is such a classic movie. This is Disney's first full-length animated movie. And it's just like all this drama going on. And the trailer looks so bad. And it's just like...
Interesting.
To be completely superficial, Gal Gadot is the evil queen. And we're supposed to believe that Wonder Woman... is jealous of Rachel Zegler, like I'm like, what is I don't know. And I'm just like, it's just a weird thing. And I feel like it's Disney trying to be progressive by making live action stuff. And so I don't know. It's just, it does feel like there's so much mess with this movie, and it's been delayed. This was shot like years ago, and it's just been delayed. Okay. And I think they don't have confidence in it. And then it's coming out. When does it come out? It's like, it's early next year.
It's expected March 21st, 2025.
Okay. So we're into spring basically at that point. So they have a little faith. To me, if like, they talk about like January, February. That's where movies go to die because everyone stops going.
Oh, really?
To the theater. Yeah. But yeah. So what's your top pick? We'll just wrap up with that.
What's like the main
Disney
thing I'm looking forward to?
Yeah, out of this list. Yeah.
Andor season 2, absolutely.
I think I'm so with you there. I think all the Star Wars projects are at the top of mind. Daredevil is really fun, but I'd say Mandalorian for me. Just because I'm excited I'm excited for Star Wars to be back in the theater. I think that's where it belongs. Andrew, my friend.
Heath.
Take us home.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can find our podcast anywhere you get podcasts. You can watch our full video show on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel. We would love it so much. That's on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram. You can also follow us on Spotify. And it'll give you little notifications when we post things every Wednesday, and then some little surprises. As always, we love talking. Thank you for listening. Go see a movie.
Go see a movie.